Welcome to Hope for Recovery, a 12-step workshop, sponsored by the Saturday Serenity Meeting of Eating Disorders Anonymous, which is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they might solve their common problems and help others to recover from their eating disorders. Information about EDA can be found at 4eda.org, the number 4eda.org. Handouts for all sessions of this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. And now, here's today's workshop.
Welcome to week 11 of the 14-week Hope for Recovery workshop. Today, we're covering step 7. My name is Regina. I live in San Diego, California. I'm a grateful, recovered member of Eating Disorders Anonymous. I serve as chairperson of the Hope for Recovery Workshop Committee. Please join me for a moment of silence. As a reminder, turn your camera off if you're moving about or doing anything distracting. I've done that. It was a little embarrassing. This workshop is being recorded to create an audio version. So if you choose to share, your voice may be heard on the recording. As a reminder, the handouts for all of our sections are available at edahopeforrecovery.com. And on every handout, it says, the opinions expressed here are those of the person speaking and do not necessarily represent EDA as a whole. There is a need, I believe, to clarify a few ideas. So I'm going to begin today's workshop with doing that, and then we're going to study step 7 together. While we cover step 6 and 7 in 2 separate weeks, they could beneficially be discussed together. For this reason, I want to do a quick review of step 6. The short version of step 6 states, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. We've discovered many of our troublesome traits, also known as character defects. We're now aware of the pain they cause ourselves and others and are becoming willing to change. EDA encourages us to look under the surface of our character defects to see what natural desires are involved. To uncover and discover these natural desires, the EDA Big Book, if you're looking for the reference, it's the bottom of page 230, suggests that we find an asset that is contained in each of our defects. This exercise is not intended to justify character defects. Rather, it allows us to explore our character defects with curiosity instead of fear, judgment, and shame. For example, my inventory work revealed that I was doing quite a bit of gossiping. When I first realized this, I thought I must be a mean, shallow, and petty person. When I looked for an underlying asset related to gossiping, I found my motive in gossiping was my natural desire for connection. Understanding this, I had an aha moment and was able to shift my perspective and go on to find healthy ways to fulfill my need for connection. EDA experience is that when we can see and understand which of our natural desires underlie our character defects, we can more easily cooperate with our higher power or higher purpose in finding healthy ways to meet our own needs. This shift in thinking from focusing on character defects and unhealthy habits to focusing on building character and healthy habits will be explored today in step 7, but not yet. Next, I was hoping to briefly revisit the topic of, you won't guess it, hand-wringing. As I have another definition for you today. Hand-wringing is a rumination on an issue without doing anything to resolve it. If you've done inventory work on an issue, you will have identified resolution options in your 5th column. These provide options for constructive action rather than unproductive worry and hand-wringing. I also wanted to respond a little more to the request for explanation of what is considered an excess of emotions, both what we would normally consider negative emotions and positive emotions. What a great question. My examples were extreme, so here goes for some more practical thoughts on this topic. Of course, there are times when life presents circumstances where painful emotions are natural and prolonged. That said, if my emotions are running my life, if my emotions are disabling my functioning, if my emotions are disconnecting me from being present, I would define my emotions as excessive. Every one of you gets to define excessive emotions for yourselves. Now, I'd like to give a couple examples of problems related to an excess of what we might typically consider positive emotion. I really had to think hard about this, and I asked for help. One friend shared with me that she is very optimistic. This resulted in not even seeing an issue related to her elderly parents' decline. Another example might be an abundance of joy regarding a new love interest, causing distraction, resulting in neglect of other responsibilities. I wanted to speak a little bit about the words trigger and triggered. I looked up these words in the EDA Big Book and found they appear 15 times. But these words are never used in the context of trigger foods. Rather, the words are used in the context of events triggering feelings. Trigger foods are not an EDA concept. In EDA, we focus on feelings, not food, because our disorders stem from our inability to handle our own emotions in rational and reasonable ways. I want to add that safety is a need, and that if one does not feel safe having a certain food in one's home or diet at a certain point in time, EDA does not object to that decision. Finally, regarding EDA's opinion on the terms addiction and disease as related to eating disorders, I want to refer everyone to page Roman numeral 13 in the preface, my favorite chapter, just saying. I'm going to read 3 sentences. EDA has no opinion on the current scientific, medical, and humanistic debate about whether an eating disorder is an addiction or whether an addiction is a disease. Some of our members conceive of their eating disorders as an addiction and a disease, while others do not. In the end, we find it matters very little what labels we apply, if any at all. Our solution is not contingent upon any specific conception of what an eating disorder may or may not be. Woo! With that, it's my great pleasure to introduce Sandy, who is going to lead us today.
Hello, my name is Sandy. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm recovered from a binge-starved eating disorder. We're going to jump right in to discussing step 7 today, and I will begin by reading the long version. Humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. We ask God to help us accept our imperfect efforts. We made a conscious effort to take care of our own basic needs so we could be of better service to God and those around us. Character building exercises helped us build strength from weakness. We began to notice what we were doing right. As we did so, the right things began to increase. This is from the EDA Big Book, Appendix A, page 483. Since humility is such a big part of step 7, let's consider what humility means. I've asked Melissa B. to read the next slide, which is about humility.
Hi, I'm Melissa B., very grateful member of EDA. To live in recovery is a beautiful thing. Humility. In this step, we're going to be relying on something greater than ourselves to help us get and maintain perspective on our shortcomings. Our shortcomings cannot be removed directly. They have to be repurposed. We do this by using our new foundation, a humble perspective, to focus on character building activities. It takes humility to do the work of addressing our flaws. EDA defines humility as having a modest view of our own importance relative to things that matter in the long run. We begin to appreciate humility as a necessary and vital frame of reference rather than some unpleasant condition to which we must be regularly reduced. Humility never involves groveling.
Now that we have more of an understanding of what humility means, let's explore the benefits of humility. I've asked Claire to read the next slide, which corresponds to the question, what are some of the benefits of humility?
What are some of the benefits of humility? Helps us lose the need to defend our position. Makes us less likely to offend or take offense. Stops us from feeling driven to launch a counterattack when our feelings are hurt. Helps us lose the urge to rush, realizing there is plenty of time. Make us more thoughtful and well-considered in our responses to life's provocations and opportunities. Makes us far more effective and influential from the EDA Big Book, page 175.
Thank you so much for reading, Claire. We're going to go to our EDA Big Books now, and we're going to look at several paragraphs from the EDA Big Book about Step 7. Volunteers, after you read, you may share for 1 to 2 minutes or feel free to pass. Elizabeth, can you please read the first full paragraph on page 176, which begins, "By this point"?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth, grateful recovered member of EDA. By this point, most of us had caught on to the idea that our eating disorders were actually symptoms of fundamental underlying issues. But while we understood that our approach to life needed an overhaul, we were still unsure how we were to go about making changes that would last. We remembered that in step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood God. We then recalled the difficulty and pain of facing our issues all at once when we took steps 4 and 5. When we imagined a life in which we miserably faced and eliminated all our outdated ideas, many of us rebelled. We wanted to find an easier, softer way. I'm going to share just a little bit. I didn't rebel. I was overwhelmed because I got a lot of character defects. And I remember feeling like, how am I ever gonna do this? And now a couple of years later, what I'm finding is even last week, I saw things changing in me that I could never have predicted or planned or manipulated to change. But just by being here and showing up and working the steps and going to meetings and hearing other people, my big long list, which I haven't looked at for a while, but it's evident, is getting less gripping. And I'm finding that I have abilities I didn't know I could to move on, to forgive myself and others. And it really is something that is beyond my ability to change myself, but it does change. And I'm just so grateful for that. With that, I'll pass.
Well, thanks so much for reading, Elizabeth, and for your share. Leslie from the UK, can you please read the second full paragraph on page 176, which begins, "But there's good news."
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie from the UK. I have an eating disorder. But there is good news. We don't need to fix ourselves. It doesn't work anyway. Apart from a few minutes each day spent on step 10, we don't waste time dwelling on issues that result from our self-centeredness, unless we are focused on how we can use them to some good purpose. Reflection is a useful tool, but rumination can lead us to lose sight of the bigger picture. We recall that self-centered fear, loss of what we already have or hope to have, seems to be at the root of our defects. So rather than continuing to focus on ourselves, our main concern now should be how we can get out of our own way so we can turn our attention to what matters in the long run. Service to the greater good, our God, higher power, or higher purpose. Thank you.
Thank
Gosh.
you for reading, Leslie. Natalie, can you please read the last paragraph on page 177, which begins, "As we work"?
As we work, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie. I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. As we work on our step 7 exercises, selfishness will start to diminish. We take care of ourselves so that we can better serve God and/or the greater good. And we discover that what we thought were our shortcomings either turn out to be our greatest assets or they slowly weaken like a muscle that isn't exercised. We do not need to worry about our defects. We can let them go and rely on our higher power or higher purpose to do the work of removing them while we work on strengthening our character. Beautiful reading. I'm so glad. Not much to say for me. It gives me a lot of hope, and it relaxes even my body to read that, because I can just let them go. Just reading this, it's everything's okay now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie. The EDA book continues with the 7-step prayer and alternative statement. Let's take a look at these together. If you are unable to see these on the screen, they are printed on page 178 of the big book. Please follow along with me as I read first the 7-step prayer and then the alternative statement. The 7-step prayer. My Creator, I am willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Alternative 7-step statement. I recognize and accept that I've been living with many self-oriented concerns and issues that have held me back from cheerful service to the greater good. I now let go of worry about my shortcomings, and I choose to focus instead on serving effectively and well. I trust as I focus more on my service than on my issues, the shortcomings that stand in the way of my usefulness will diminish, and the authenticity, integrity, dedication, and skills that my service requires will grow stronger. My daily follow through on my commitment to service will become my strength. And EDA Step 7 covers the topic of character building. You may have heard the term character building at an EDA meeting. Step 7 includes the topic of character building. For an explanation and instruction on character building, I've asked Donna to read the last paragraph on page 176. This paragraph covers 2 slides.
Character building. This is exactly where our sponsors step in to help us identify character building activities that open us up to new experiences. We find we can leverage the pain of our defects to good purpose, replacing old patterns of thought and behavior with meaningful action. If we were prideful, we can work to create capabilities in others. We can mentor young people, share our honest stories with other EDA members, and steadfastly avoid taking credit for good deeds. We find we can always credit someone else for our successes. If we were manipulative, we can have empathy for those who demand that others conform to their will. And we work to expose manipulation and dishonesty wherever we find it. If we were silent victims, we work to find our voice, write gratitude lists, and find reasons to compliment those around us for work well done. If we were greedy for attention, fame, or fortune, we can share our time and resources with those less fortunate. If we were jealous spouses, we can encourage our partners to enjoy hobbies and pursuits that would have frustrated and frightened us before recovery. If we were lazy in our efforts to care for others, we carefully set new, reasonable goals at regular intervals to stretch our capacity little by little. These are but a few examples of how we may, through reliance on our higher power or higher purpose and on the guidance of others, develop strength where once there was weakness. We stress that these new character building activities should not be taken on all at one time. We must work diligently and patiently, not obsessively. Counsel with the sponsor is advised so that we neither do so much that we become overwhelmed, nor do so little that we remain weak. That's from the EDA Big Book, pages 176 through 177.
Thank you, Donna. Let's look at additional suggestions from Chapter 7. Chapter 7, Working with Others, contains more ideas related to character building. Some of these include doing random acts of kindness every day anonymously, accepting a service commitment, finding a creative outlet. On page 230 of our EDA Big Book, it is suggested that we don't focus, quote, we don't focus on the habit we want to replace. We put our energy and attention on the new activity instead, unquote. On page 231, we were told that, in fact, EDA emphasizes that, quote, we don't work on defects, we work on building character, which is the complete opposite, unquote. Now let's look at the entire paragraph where this second quote is found. Audrey, would you please read for us? This covers 2 slides.
My name is Audrey. I'm in recovery with EDA. Quote, this is an important point. We don't work on defects. We work on character, building character, which is a complete opposite. For instance, we overcome dishonesty by using our voice and speaking our truth in ways that serve the greater good. We overcome selfishness by thinking of others and quietly working to make life better for them. We begin to master fear by taking small risks that demonstrate our willingness to change, allowing ourselves to express anger in a safe way, eating a, quote, fear food with support of friends or family, speaking up, accepting the risk that we may be criticized, and allowing ourselves to change our minds if we are wrong. Sponsors need not provide such character building exercises for every defect, and sponsees need only work on 1 or 2 at a time, depending on what they consider to be the key issues to be addressed. You may want to run ideas by your own sponsor and let your sponsee know later what you think would be most effective. This comes from the EDA Big Book, page 231.
Hey, thanks so much. Now we're going to look at a slide that is the same information that we just read in chart form. So defect, selfishness, tool we can use to develop character. Think of others and quietly work to make life better for them. Be grateful I have skills and encouragement to offer and put them to use. Defect, fear, tool we can use to develop character. Take small risks that demonstrate willingness to change. Examples include allowing ourselves to express anger in a safe way. This builds self-trust. Eating a fear food with support of family or friends. This builds self-trust. Speaking up, accepting the risk that we may be criticized. This builds confidence that we can weather unfavorable opinions and shows us our own perspectives matter. We can provide ourselves with internal validation if we try. Allowing ourselves to change our minds if we are wrong. Doing this builds integrity. Defect, dishonesty, tool we can use to develop character. Use my voice to speak the truth in ways that serve the greater good. This builds confidence that there is more power and influence and humility than in prideful arrogance. I would like to give an example of the character building exercise from my own life. So I really struggled with the defect of jealousy. And my friends would tell me about these wonderful things they had or they were doing. and I would meet their celebration with less than a positive attitude. It was affecting my relationships with them. It was suggested to me that as a character building exercise, that I practice making positive comments when friends shared these wonderful things with me. Well, in the beginning, it was really an act as if type exercise because I admit I really wasn't feeling happy for them. But as I continued to practice this new behavior, I found my attitude and perspective changed. And you know what? I discovered a new source of joy in my life because now I really was able to rejoice and celebrate with my friends at last. And I'm so grateful for this program. That changed my relationships with them too. So Regina, could you please share an example as well?
Okay. I thought I would go back to gossip, the character defect I talked about earlier. The asset contained in the defect was my natural desire for connection. So in addition to the inventory work and prayer, my character building exercise was that I organized a book club and invited friends and other people I wanted to get to know better to join. This has led to a wonderful source of connection for me.
So this week's homework asks us to 1, write your own 7-step prayer or commitment and bring it to a workshop next week. 2, develop 1 or 2 character building exercises, and you can bring those to the workshop next week. Continue to implement your 10th and 11th step practices. Remember to focus on things done right. 4, read 1 story from the EDA Big Book, Part 1, Pioneers of EDA. And 5, call at least 1 EDA member to share some of the above. So to wrap up, our higher power, higher purpose can and does use us exactly as we are. We do not need to be perfect to be useful. Quite the opposite is true. So I will now turn the workshop over to our workshop chair, Regina, who will facilitate the next part of the workshop. Take it away, Regina.
Thank you so much, Sandy. For the next part of the workshop, everyone, all of you, are invited to ask questions, claim milestones, or share. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. You may also type a question in the chat. Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel, recovering from an eating disorder in Toronto, Canada, nice and chilly. My milestone is that I found something in the EDA Big Book that just knocked me for a loop. And it ties in with what Regina was talking about earlier about emotions being too large sometimes. It's on page 123 of the Big Book. And it says, we become less dependent on old habits, and we can more easily see life's emotional challenges for what they are. And then it gives this lovely list. Number 1, signals that we may be neglecting something that needs to be dealt with first. That's taking care of basics. Number 2, reminders that we're only human. This is emotional challenges we're talking about. Can be challenges to our commitment to place service to the greater good ahead of our self-generated emotional states. Big emotions can be opportunities to build bridges of empathy and understanding with others who struggle with similar issues and challenges. They can be a means through which we grow more resilient, strong, and flexible in our recovery. And they can also be impediments to fully serving others in the here and now. So when my emotions go a little wacko, I open the book and I look at this page and I just remind myself, I'm here to be of service to the greater good. And maybe this is just a reminder that I'm only human. I just try to find where my emotions are pointing me right now. Very, very practical, useful little page. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. Audrey.
Okay, so my milestone is I had a coffee date at 10:30, and that's not the milestone. The milestone is that I ate before I went on my coffee date. But I wanted to know, Regina, what would you think? Can I share a 10th step that I did yesterday?
It's your 2 minutes. Go.
Okay, here's my 10 step. So what's happening? I'm missing my twin sister Perry, who's in heaven, for 1 year and 2 months now. And I still miss her, especially when I'm truly insecure about my body size and shape. What's affected? My security is at risk. Gaining boobs and a butt that I realize is scary. And since no one else notices, I don't have Perry to bitch to and her understanding and her support. My errors of thinking is that I think that Perry is the only one who could support me in my fear. I have all or nothing thinking. I'm dishonest because I'm not reaching out to my sponsor to say what's really bothering me. And what I need for peace and balance is self-compassion, the third step prayer, acceptance of where I'm at in my recovery. I see people influencing me positively in meetings. They're being honest and they're doing service work. In the next 24 hours, what a situation might be problematic would be overeating at night for comfort. How can I prepare for that? Is to go to a nightly EDA meeting. And a small goal in the next 24 hours is when visiting my mom and dad, do not engage, just watch football and be respectful. That's it.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Scarlett.
So my milestone is that I finally started making progress on my fourth step inventories. For a while there, I was like really avoiding them. And then I tried to sit down and do them all at once one time and found that that was a really bad idea, that I should not have done that. And then so this past weekend, I did it like a little bit at a time. Then I would go do something else, read, give myself a break. And I actually started to make like a lot of progress. And I found that it was very emotional. And there were times where I felt like I was being like re-triggered from having to like really feel my feelings. And so I would give myself a break and then I would come back to it. And I just have to say that I'm very proud of myself that I stopped avoiding doing that.
Thank you for sharing and congratulations on that milestone. Leslie.
Hi, Leslie again from the UK. My milestone was that I was due to do a choir this morning for a couple of hours, but it got cancelled because the leader has COVID, but unfortunately not badly. So instead, my girlfriend and I that were going to go to choir, we didn't sort of grumble or moan. We just made the best of the day and went shopping for the day and had a wonderful few hours together, which is such a rare thing for me to. I'm still in awe of the fact that I have girlfriends now, that, you know, I have friends, people like me, and that's just awesome. I'm still blown away with that. And while I was out, I was in a shop and this really elegant lady came in. She was very slender. Sorry, that doesn't mean, I don't mean that in a unkind way, but she was just very elegant. She had this blue and grey crocodile print coat on, and she had this jaunty hat. And it just looked so attractive. And I actually told her so. You know, I said, if you don't mind me saying, you know, you look really elegant. And she was so thrilled to be complimented like that. And I'm just, where did that come from? Where did that courage to be nice and to, well, how have I become nice? I mean, where did that come from? It was just all about me. And I would have looked at this elegant lady and thought, you know, I would have been jealous and found some way of criticizing her and look at her in that stupid hat. Who does she think she is? You know, instead of which I just pointed out to my girlfriend and said, doesn't that lady look lovely? And told her so. So, yeah, I'm pleased with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you so much. I think there were milestones in there too. Many congratulations. Shannon, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Thank you to everybody who's sharing and conducting the workshop. A milestone I would like to share is that I've just made significant progress over the last couple of weeks with body acceptance. I had several events over the weekend that normally would have maybe set me off in a negative emotional state, but I just recognized the thoughts as they came up. And what I say to myself is, I'm not worshiping that false idol anymore. And I just let it go. And then the other thing I want to say is step 7 is so inspiring and relieving. And this is my first time through any 12 steps. And the little bit on page 176 in the third paragraph, it talks about we don't need to waste time dwelling on issues that result from our self-centeredness unless we are focused on how we can use them for some good purpose, is just so profound. And it was such a relief to me when I read that. And I'm just really excited and inspired. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your beautiful milestone and recovery with us. Esther.
Hi, Esther, and I want to recover from an eating disorder. And I want to share a milestone that I had stopped working on my resentments and started working on my fears, because some of my resentments are really heavy and, from like a dysfunctional childhood. But today I brought the papers with me to therapy of those big resentments. I brought them with me to my therapy session with my therapist, and I did them. And I did I put them down, like these resentments are like my mother, my father, and then my parents together. And I did my parents together and my father. And now I just have my mother left in my resentments. And I feel like I could finally, continue, because I'm kind of anxious to finish my 4th step already, because I've been spending so much time, like not necessarily so much time, but it's been dragged out so long already. And I kind of find myself that when I'm doing my 4th step lately, like when I did that today, that I'm like, oh yeah, step 6, faults. Oh yeah, not in the my faults. And that's like similar to step 6, where you list your character defects. So I'm kind of like feel like I'm like working on step 4, but I'm already kind of thinking about like future steps. But I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Thank you so much. Wonderful share. Wonderful. And it sounds like a milestone in there too. Congratulations. Laura H.
Hi, I have a milestone, and that is that I have a milestone and I'm sharing it. Yay. So I've been present at all the workshops, but I've been taking everything really slow, kind of easing my way through it and not beating myself up or anything. And it's worked out for me to do it that way. And I'm just grateful for everybody being here. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. Congratulations on your milestone, sharing with us, hanging in. Eileen in Philly.
Hi, everybody. I don't know where everybody is. I'll say good morning. Thank you to Regina and the team, the workshop team. This has just been an amazing workshop, and grateful to be here. I do want to say my milestone is that I knew I was going to be late, and I wanted to say I don't have to go because I'm going to be late and I'm going to miss too much, so I'm not going. And I decided to come on anyhow, and that, I want to be perfect, and that is imperfect behavior, so I'm grateful to be here. I really enjoyed hearing the big emotional feelings on page 123. That helped me a lot. I'm going to refer back to that. I made a note, because reminders are so important to me, because I just have, this forgetter that all of a sudden I get wrapped up in myself and I don't remember the things that are most important, because I start running down a rabbit trail. And I'm so grateful to be able to come back to what's important. My beliefs, wherever they came from, if you're thin, tall, rich, educated, you are it. That's the it person. And I realized that, that is so unattainable. And it's unrealistic and it's really not human, but it still is something that I have to really unlearn. One of the things, and that ties into envy, which is one of my character defects that I've got to look at, because when I see somebody like that, I'm like, that's what I want. And that's so totally not even my body form. I'm 5'5". I mean, that's just never going to happen. And you know, the other part of it, and I'll end with this, is the gratitude. If I go back to the gratitude of just being grateful for every moment I have, and the fact that I am able to be in recovery, that I walk a road of recovery, and I have met some of the most incredible people on this road, and that I would much rather be here than, you know, trying to just stand up and be something that I'm not. Authenticity is the only way for me. And so I'm going to stay in gratitude, keep coming back, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Eileen. Congratulations on your milestone. Okay, phone number 915 area code.
Hi, this is Tracy, and my milestone is I just celebrated a birthday, and I realized, you know, throughout the day, how many people contacted me, wished me a happy birthday, and so forth. And I also kind of, many years ago, you know, pushed my family, siblings away from me, doing, you know, and all, I mean, it was me. I mean, I see that this eating disorder has really, you know, had some really negative effects on me. But anyway, celebrating this birthday, I realized my siblings called and wished me a happy birthday, other people from recovery and so forth. And I'm just thinking, you know, I want to repair that damage that I did because of the place I was in. And I'm sure they really didn't understand, or probably to this day they don't understand. But the thing is, you know what, because I'm in EDA, I'm learning how to repair and reverse so much of my, you know, my thinking of, you know, I'm not good enough. I don't like the way I look, and on, which is nothing to do with who I really am. And I want to develop relationships. I want to be honest. I want to have healthy relationships, healthy boundaries. And it's all due to this program. And I was sharing that small group how well I work with these workshops. And when other people are working steps, I'm working the steps. And it just is such a boost for me to continue on and not giving up. And so thank you for all the people who present these workshops and these meetings. So, you know, it has just totally changing my life. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. And I pass.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Yeah, and I just want to say that week 9, step 9, when we do amends, I think y'all are really going to enjoy that week. Not that every week isn't wonderful. Let's lower Tracy's hand and hear next from Laura C. Hi, Laura.
Hi, thank you so much. My milestone, and I guess it's good emotions. I felt a little emotional thinking about sharing this, and because I'm so grateful for this workshop. I just want to make sure I say that. I know you've heard that over and over, but I'm also on that bandwagon of how grateful I am for this workshop. I had something else kind of pulling at me to do, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll have to miss the workshop today and do that, and I'll watch the video later. But I've had so much going on, and I thought, no, I really need to be on the meeting, be on the workshop. And just before the workshop started, a friend from the workshop texted me and said, I hope to see you on the workshop today. And it was like, I will be on there. And I met this wonderful person in this workshop, and I've met so many other wonderful people. So I will never be able to thank you all enough for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a question in the chat. I'll just take a moment. What are examples of character building activities for fear and worry? And, offhand, I think it's taking small risks and thoughtfully, careful small risks, small steps is what comes to me offhand for character building for fear. Okay, let's see who's next. Judy.
Hi, my name is Judy, and I'm going to say something amazing. For all the however long I've been here, I've been saying I have a desire to recover from an eating disorder, and just somehow today I feel like saying I'm in the process of recovering. I feel recovery coming through. So
nice.
So I suppose that's one milestone. The other milestone is that for the first time since in a long time, we had a house guest, and then we have another house guest coming. And I'm like, oh, be of service. How can I be of service? But then also this idea of, oh, what's the asset in the selfishness? It's like, well, I have needs too. And so with this program, I'm finding a balance between being of service to company, but also meeting my needs, that balance somewhere in the middle. So seeking that balance is my milestone. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your milestone and congratulations. Jane, we're going to give you an unmute request.
Hi, okay. I don't know if it's a milestone. I just wanted to say I'm doing my homework and keeping up with things with the help of my friend. And I want to understand and I want to learn, but that most of all, I want to learn how to do it, and understand how to do it. Otherwise, I'm not going to get better. So that's one of them. And the only other thing was what lady was sharing about the thing on 1, 2, 3 about the emotions. I like that, and I'm gonna ask my friend to explain a bit more about it, Zumi. So I'm listening and I'm learning. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you here, Jane. Love your share and milestones and comments. Trish in Indiana.
Hi, I am Trish, and I like what Judy said. I have a desire to recover from my eating disorder. That's where I feel like I am now. And I'm grateful for that, hearing that way to put it, because I never know what to say. And part of me feels like, oh, I don't know if I should. I've had to get over the shame, I guess it is, of not being in recovery and attending these meetings, And so I feel like today it just became clear to me. I've been working on this, and just with family, I am not so worried about the food at Thanksgiving this year. It's like, I know I'll eat a meal, my main focus can be, I want to say behaving myself, of not getting into any of my patterns, my letting family members trigger me, which has been a lifelong pattern, so that I act out in anger or, and so that will be my focus, to take care of myself in a way that I can stay in gratitude and centered, and that kind of thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Jody.
I'm Jody, in recovery from an eating disorder, and thank you so much for the workshop. And that I just listening to everybody, I've had like a lot of emotion come up, and so for me, I think this, Thanksgiving week and the holidays, my son's home from college for 5 weeks, and and we have family coming, and just all the things everybody's got, and for me, just the change of schedule brings up so much anxiety. It's not my normal routine. And I think that the fear is around, I'm seeing that that's when I turn to my eating disorder behaviors, is to an escape from all of the, just the anxiety of things being different. I don't have, just fear of not having that little bit of process time to myself, and those kinds of things. And, it struck me, and somehow maybe it can, maybe the solution can be in some of the things that, hearing today, that, just like in recovery with the food itself, focus on what I can do, see an eating disorder nutritionist is, I'm doing, and all of that. So, and I was just noticing with the step 7 that it's kind of the same thing, instead of focusing on getting rid of the character defect, I love what was shared about focusing on the positive asset. So I'm just trying to figure out it, how to apply that to feeling out of control over the holidays. So anyway, I don't know if that made any sense, but I'll pass with that.
I'm thinking about your comment. Well, first of all, thank you very much. How do something positive about feeling out of control? Yeah, it's an opportunity, right? Somewhere in there's an opportunity. Okay, let's see. We haven't yet heard from Kim. Let's hear from Kim next.
So, one, I love this concept of character building as opposed to focusing on the defect. So that is really helpful. Okay, Thanksgiving, I call them the food holidays. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. It's the season of the feeding. And for my eating disorder, it is so activated. It's like I gave it Miracle Grow. I know, it's like I got Miracle Grow going on it. And so I spend a lot of time depending on my higher purpose. This year it'll be my higher purpose, but just saying, this is really hard for me. I'm estranged from my family. My wife is dead. Luckily, I have a really strong AA community. The holidays, I was always the person in my family who cooked and did all the Christmas cookies and all that stuff. I mean, growing up, because I have kids. And I did it like, oh my God, but I'm scared. Every year, somehow I make it through, but I don't always make it through without using eating disorder behaviors. And I really would like to get through that day without, let's just say, get through this week without eating disorder behaviors. It would be a miracle. I know, and I don't really believe in miracles, but it would be so helpful.
Thank you, Kim. I'm going to call on Melissa.
I'm Melissa, and very grateful to be living in recovery. It's an active recovery, and it's always a work in progress, but it's a robust recovery. And I know that in my share today, I'm going to try to do like a roses and thorns. So this is the part that smells good, and this is the part that hurts. So I'm fairly confident I'll be able to get through Thanksgiving and even the day leading up to Thanksgiving without being in an active eating disordered behavior. My mind and fears that I feel around my family, that feels a lot more unmanageable. So that's where the healing is for me this year. It's always going to be different every year. And I was sitting here thinking, what can I do to set myself up for safety for that day? Well, before going over there, I probably will have a nice chat with my husband saying, if I'm feeling really wigged out by the energy of the family, can we just have a code word and we can just go for a little walk for some fresh air, just like an escape hatch. I might need to do that and make it not a big deal. It doesn't have to follow on the heels of a fight. We can just go, oh, we really just want to go for a walk. Let's take the dog. We'll be right back. we're not going to make it into a big deal. The other thing I'd like to do this year is to sit at the table and hold in my heart gratitude for my very life, gratitude that I found my way to these rooms, gratitude that I have a chance for a meaningful, healthy, happy, useful life because of this program. And my recovery doesn't happen all at once. It happens very slowly, but then I trust it because it's happening slowly. So I'm going to look at all the other members at the table, and it's going to be a big table this year, as, it's so interesting. All these human beings on their own journey with their own struggles. And here we are able to share a meal together. I'm just going to not try hard not to tune into the one person who's my energy drain, who I feel criticized around. And I'm going to focus on the love, beams of love from other people I know that are sitting at the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, so the chat is open. Sandy has reminded me that you can find all our handouts at EDA hopeforrecovery.com. So there, doesn't matter if you don't get them in your inbox. Just hold on to this Zoom link. Lori.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lori, recovering from an eating disorder. Nervous to speak with this large group, but I can definitely feel something within me wanting to take part in all of this. So it's definitely a milestone speaking up. I wanted to talk about something I noticed going well in recovery. So I'm in this 3-year training program that happens, it's an international program, and it happens at 5:30 a.m. my time. And the first time I participated in it, I just was so thrown off. Actually, it was 4:30 a.m. at that time, and I had to call in sick the next day at work. And so it happened again this past weekend, and I took care of myself where I took off a vacation today, tomorrow, and Wednesday just to recover and give myself some space. And I also had a really big feeling come up over the weekend, but I just said, take care of basics. Like, you woke up at 5 o'clock 2 days in a row, just get some rest. And I got like 10 hours of sleep last night. And I just recognized early in recovery, I just would have really ran with that overwhelming feeling and, blamed it on childhood trauma and all kinds of things. So just see the recovery and taking care of basics and now celebrating what's going well. That's it for now. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Lori. And I think some congratulations are in order on some of those milestones. All right, let me check the time. I'm going to ask Sandy to take us out, and then we're going to, after the prayer, we'll stop the recording, and then we'll continue to the after party. Go ahead, Sandy.
All righty. Well, just a reminder that volunteers are selected prior to the start of each workshop. So next week, please consider joining us 10 to 15 minutes early to volunteer. Anonymity reminder, please do not share who you've seen here or what others have shared here. 7th tradition, we have no dues or fees, and this workshop is offered at no cost. However, EDA has expenses and donations are welcomed. To donate, go to the EDA website and select the support tab. If you wish to, please join me now in saying the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
We hope you enjoyed today's workshop. More information about Eating Disorders Anonymous can be found at 4eda.org, number 4eda.org. The handouts for this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. We encourage you to check out one or more of the many EDA Zoom or in-person meetings. Many of us have found recovery from our eating disorders in these meetings and hope that you will too. Until next time.